Have you ever seen someone do something so incredibly foolish that you wonder how they've managed to survive this long? We all have. Sometimes, though, they don't. The Darwin Awards are a special kind of honor, a posthumous salute to those individuals who, through their own spectacular miscalculations, remove themselves from the human gene pool. They are a celebration of human error at its most extreme and, dare I say, most creative. The core principle is simple. To win a Darwin Award, one must die in such an astoundingly stupid way that their action ensures they can no longer pass on their genes. It's evolution in action, one mind-boggling mistake at a time. The awards are named, of course, after Charles Darwin, the father of evolutionary theory, though I'm quite sure he never envisioned his work being used to document such magnificent blunders. The criteria for winning are quite specific and rigorously applied. First, the candidate must be deceased, or at the very least, rendered incapable of reproduction. Second, their judgment must be astonishingly poor. So, why do we chronicle these tales? It's not to mock the dead, but rather to entertain and to educate. These stories serve as cautionary tales, a sort of what not to do guide for the rest of humanity. They are funny, yes, but in a way that makes you stop and think. Each story is a miniature play, a tragedy and a comedy rolled into one. Our first story takes us to a college campus, a place of higher learning where one would expect to find bright minds at work. However, even in these hallowed halls, the siren song of a free snack can lead to disaster. A young student, frustrated by a vending machine that had greedily consumed his dollar without dispensing the desired candy bar, decided to take matters into his own hands. Instead of seeking a refund or simply walking away, he declared war on the uncooperative machine. His strategy was not one of finesse or cleverness, but of brute force. He began to rock the massive metal box back and forth, hoping to dislodge his sugary prize through sheer physical effort. His friends, who had gathered to watch the spectacle, likely cheered him on, amused by his determined struggle against the inanimate object. The student, fueled by adrenaline and the promise of a hard-won treat, gave one final, mighty heave. This time, however, he had miscalculated the physics of the situation. The vending machine, having reached its tipping point, did not just wobble. It surrendered to gravity completely. It fell forward, directly on top of the very person who had been trying to conquer it. This next tale has become a legend in the Darwin Awards community, a story so incredible it almost sounds like a cartoon. It involves a man, his Chevrolet Impala, and a JATO rocket. JATO stands for Jet-Assisted Takeoff, a type of rocket used to help heavy military planes get off the ground quickly. Why would a civilian need one of these? He wouldn't. But our protagonist, a former Air Force sergeant, managed to get his hands on one. His goal was simple and profoundly misguided. He wanted to attach it to his car to see how fast it would go. He dreamed of achieving supersonic speeds on the desolate highways of the Arizona desert. He drove his Impala out to a long, straight stretch of road, far from prying eyes. There, he meticulously mounted the powerful JATO unit to the roof of his car. He got behind the wheel, took a deep breath, and hit the ignition. The rocket roared to life with unimaginable force, instantly unleashing thousands of pounds of thrust. The car didn't just accelerate, it exploded forward like a missile fired from a cannon. Within seconds, it reached an estimated speed of over 300 miles per hour, a velocity the car's frame, tires, and brakes were never designed to handle. Then he encountered a slight curve in the road. At normal speeds, it would have been an easy turn. At 300 miles per hour, it was an insurmountable obstacle. The car, behaving more like an aircraft than an automobile, became airborne. Our next story comes from the bustling city of Toronto, where a lawyer working in a prestigious downtown skyscraper demonstrated that a high IQ does not always translate to common sense. This particular lawyer had a peculiar habit of testing the strength of the windows in his 24th floor office. He would reportedly run at the glass and bounce off it, much to the amusement and shock of his colleagues and visitors. He had performed this strange feat many times before, always emerging unscathed, reinforcing his belief that the windows were completely unbreakable. It was his party trick, a bizarre display of bravado, high above the city streets. One day, during a reception for new articling students, he decided to perform his signature stunt once again. He wanted to impress the newcomers, to show them the kind of daring and confidence that defined his firm. He took a running start from across the room, just as he had done countless times before. He charged toward the large pane of glass, expecting to rebound off it with a satisfying thud. This time, however, something went terribly wrong. Instead of bouncing off the glass, he crashed right through it. The window frame gave way under the force of the impact, and the entire pane of glass popped out of its housing. The lawyer, carried by his own momentum, plunged through the newly created opening and fell 24 stories to his death. The horrified students and colleagues could only watch in stunned silence as their confident mentor disappeared from view. His belief in the indestructibility of the window had been fatally misplaced. So, this next cautionary tale comes to us from the world of do-it-yourself electrical work, which, honestly, is a field where a little knowledge can be a very dangerous thing. There was a man who decided he was going to repair a faulty appliance in his home without calling a professional electrician. He felt pretty confident in his abilities, thinking he could handle the job himself and, save a few dollars in the process. Now, his first step should have been to turn off the power at the circuit breaker, but that was a step he decided to skip. Maybe he thought it was just too much trouble, or maybe he simply forgot. Whatever the reason, it was a decision that would, unfortunately, seal his fate. Working with live wires is incredibly dangerous, a fact known to anyone with even a basic understanding of electricity. But our intrepid home repairman seemed to have a plan to deal with this. He needed to figure out which wire was the hot or live one. A professional would use a tool called a multimeter or a voltage tester. But this man, well, he went for a more direct and, honestly, shockingly foolish method. He decided he would test the wires by putting them in his mouth, one by one. His logic, as flawed as it was that a small shock from a household circuit wouldn't be too bad. He picked up the first wire and touched it to his tongue. Nothing happened. That was the neutral wire. He then picked up the second wire, the live one, and did the same. The result was instantaneous and deadly. The full force of the household electrical current surged through his body, using his wet tongue as a perfect conductor. Our next story proves that even seemingly harmless household objects can become deadly in the wrong hands. It involves a young man, his lava lamp, and a complete disregard for the instructions printed on the box. Lava lamps work by using a small incandescent bulb to heat a container of wax and oil. The heated wax rises, cools at the top, and then sinks back down, creating the mesmerizing groovy blobs we all know and love. The key component here is the small, low-wattage bulb. It provides just enough heat to make the lamp work properly and safely. Our protagonist, however, was in a hurry. He had just acquired a new lava lamp and was eager to see it in action. But the gentle heating process was too slow for his liking. He wanted instant gratification. He wanted his lava to start flowing right away. So, he came up with what he thought was a brilliant idea to speed things up. He removed the small standard bulb that came with the lamp and decided to heat it directly on his kitchen stove. He placed the glass vessel of the lava lamp on a hot electric burner, turning the heat up high to get things moving quickly. This was a catastrophic mistake. The stove burner generated far more heat than the lamp was ever designed to handle. The liquid inside the sealed glass container began to boil and expand rapidly, building up an immense amount of pressure. The glass vessel, which was never intended to be a pressure cooker, could not contain the force. It effectively became a bomb. After a few minutes on the hot stove, the lava lamp exploded with tremendous power, sending superheated liquid and sharp shards of glass flying in every direction across the kitchen. Some Darwin Awards are born from a simple desire to see the world from a different perspective. This is the story of Lawn Chair Larry, a man who dreamed of flying but took a very unconventional route to achieve it. Instead of learning to pilot a plane, he decided to build his own flying machine out of a common patio chair. His plan was as simple as it was audacious. He would attach dozens of weather balloons to a sturdy lawn chair, float gently into the sky, and enjoy a peaceful aerial view of his neighborhood. He packed some sandwiches, a beverage, and a pellet gun, which he intended to use to shoot the balloons one by one to make a controlled descent. On a sunny day in 1982, Larry put his plan into action. He and his ground crew tethered his balloon-festooned chair, which he christened Inspiration 1, to his car. He settled into his seat, gave the signal, and his friends cut the rope. He didn't just float gently upwards as he had planned, he shot into the sky like a cork popping from a bottle. He had severely underestimated the lifting power of 45 helium-filled weather balloons. He ascended rapidly, climbing to an astonishing altitude of 16,000 feet, right into the middle of the controlled airspace for Los Angeles International Airport. Suddenly, Larry found himself in a very dangerous situation. He was drifting through major commercial flight paths, shivering in the cold, thin air, with no way to steer and no real control over his altitude. For hours, he drifted helplessly across the sky, a bizarre and unexpected hazard for the pilots of 747s who had to report the strange sighting of a man in a lawn chair to air traffic control. Our final story ventures into the great outdoors where a group of friends went duck hunting. Hunting requires skill, patience, and above all, a deep respect for the power of firearms. Unfortunately, one member of this hunting party was a bit too eager to bag a duck, and his enthusiasm led him to make a series of fatally flawed decisions. The group was set up near a frozen pond, waiting for ducks to fly overhead. After a long wait, a flock of ducks finally appeared in the sky. The hunters took aim and fired, but the ducks were flying too high and were out of range. One of the hunters, however, managed to hit a duck. The bird fell from the sky, but instead of landing on the ground nearby, it landed directly in the center of the frozen pond, far from the shore. The hunter was determined to retrieve his prize. His hunting dog, which would normally be sent to fetch the bird, was either not present or unwilling to venture onto the ice. So the hunter decided to get it himself. His first problem was the ice. It was too thin to walk on. His solution was incredibly dangerous. He decided he would use his shotgun to blast a path through the ice to the duck. This plan had several obvious flaws, but he proceeded anyway. He stood at the edge of the pond and began firing his shotgun at the ice in front of him. The blasts shattered the ice just as he had hoped. However, he failed to consider what would happen to the pellets after they hit the hard frozen surface. Instead of embedding themselves in the ice, the shotgun pellets ricocheted. They bounced off the hard surface of the ice and flew straight back towards the person who had fired them. As we've journeyed through these tales of terminal misadventure, from jet-powered cars to stovetop lava lamps, a common theme emerges. Each of these stories, while darkly humorous, is fundamentally a tragedy born from a single moment of profoundly poor judgment. These are not tales of malice or evil intent, but of human folly at its most spectacular. The individuals we've discussed didn't set out to end their lives. They set out to get a snack, go faster, impress their friends, or retrieve a duck. Their ultimate failure was a failure to pause and think, to consider the consequences of their actions before it was too late. The Darwin Awards serve as more than just a collection of bizarre anecdotes. They are a powerful, if unconventional, educational tool. They remind us that the world is governed by unyielding physical laws, and that ignoring them often comes with the highest possible price. Electricity will always seek the path of least resistance, gravity is relentless, and pressure will always build in a sealed, heated container. By laughing at the absurdity of these situations, we are also learning from them. We are reinforcing our own understanding of what not to do. These stories stick with us precisely because they are so outrageous. You may not remember a dry safety manual, but you will almost certainly remember the story of the man who tested a live wire with his tongue. So let us raise a metaphorical glass to the winners of the Darwin Awards. They are a tribute to the strange and unpredictable nature of human behavior. Their stories are a stark reminder to us all to embrace a little humility and a lot of common sense. Before you climb onto your roof, before you mix chemicals you don't understand, and certainly before you strap a rocket to your car, take a moment, pause, think. Your continued existence in the gene pool might just depend on it. And that, ultimately, is a prize worth far more than any fleeting moment of glory or a free candy bar.